So we got some insane reveals this chapter, including how to return the Doi Reverse characters back to normal, even perfect health, and it's definitely not what I expected, and what's more, it changes everything about Xebec and the past, as we'll get into, so make sure to stay tuned for that and more in this one. Now, channel Pirate King within, and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video to join the Knock'em if you haven't already by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece reviews and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Okay, so quickly, last chapter was epic in and of itself, one of the best. We got the big reveal for Loki and Ragnar, and the devil fruits were exactly what I thought they were from the start. The Nidhogg dragon fruit and the Ratatoskr ice squirrel fruit, both mythical zones. The user of Loki's fruit becomes the biggest dragon in the world, but even more bigger, yes, that's how I said it because it makes sense in this case, if the original user is bigger. So only an ancient giant like Loki can bring out its full potential like this. It would be smaller, even if it still would be the biggest, if a human ate it, for example. Oda also introduced some Pokemon mechanics, which was interesting, as we saw that Summers' thorns can be dealt with heat, aka with Sanji's fire kick. So yes, sometimes things can just be super effective against other things, and in this case he Charmander kicked his Bulbasaur thorns. If anything, now the situation looks too good for our guys. The children are saved, Luffy wrecked Summers with an oh so satisfying giant thunder punch that I couldn't wait for, and it delivered. Sanji freed Robin, who was one of the few that were still trapped. Loki dealt with most of the dream monsters. So the question is, what can IMU possibly do now? Will IMU concede that this is the end of this particular Elbaf battle and leave to fight another day? Or will they actually put up a good fight here and now through Gunko? Or maybe even bring reinforcements. IMU also gets excited, revealing that they didn't know this was where the Nidhogg fruit was, so that was pretty surprising. I assumed they knew, which is why IMU Herald was so set on the fruit before he passed, but the fact is, Nidhogg of the past might have been on IMU's side, since we know that an old user clashed with the Sun God, but I'm sure we'll learn more about their history as the story goes on. So this chapter is called Full of Pride. Our Straw Hats are starting to get upgrades for this arc already with this chapter. First, it's time for Franky's upgrade. Lilith takes a special machine out of the Vegapunk box. It's the Omni Drain Converter, or ODC for short, a machine that can use the energy that is existing in an abundance everywhere in Elbaf. If you're like me, you immediately thought of the way the Spirit Bomb works in Dragon Ball. Lilith proceeds, as mentioned, to give Franky an upgrade. Lilith is at first surprised that Franky, having a Pacifista level body, has never tried something greater or better than Cola as his energy source. So although it was a funny ongoing joke in the series, it makes sense that someone would finally come up with something better than just normal Cola. Although I'm sure that was useful all that time for attracting One Piece / Cola collaborations, Oda definitely knew exactly what he was doing there. Before the upgrade, we jump to Nami ordering Zeus to put out the school flame, but Killingham arrives and orders Dream Monster Lindworm to swallow Zeus. Honestly, after seeing Loki go ham on so many dream monsters, I'm surprised there are still dream monsters left. Killingham really created a lot when you think about it. This is when Lilith and Franky arrive too. Lilith uses the ODC to suck all heat energy, making both the school and library freeze. Thawing is definitely easier than returning books from Ash, so this is a win that Robin will appreciate. Also, props to Lilith for being insanely useful even without being a Straw Hat. But Lilith's usefulness doesn't even stop there. She then takes the heat energy and turns it into quote-unquote super heavy cola and gives it to Franky to give him his big upgrade. Killingham orders Dream Monster Lindworm to crush the school and even insults Jinbei for being a fishman. Based on Killingham's fruit and the lore around it, I assumed he would have been a better guy, especially because everyone looks good in front of Summers, but clearly he is not. He even says he's glad he's wearing a helmet so he doesn't have to breathe the same air as Jinbei. Him insulting Jinbei does, however, create an opportunity for an awesome moment for Sanji. Sanji appears in front of Killingham and says he'll punish the Holy Knight for insulting his nakama. We then get an epic double page. On the one hand, we see Jinbei using Vagabond Drill and Franky powered by Super Heavy Cola, this time using Strong Dexter to defeat Lindworm and free Zeus. On the other hand, we see Sanji crushing Killingham's head brutally with his own attack, Konkase, a cooking term meaning to rough chop ingredients, definitely fitting for such a moment, and as an added bonus, he breaks the helmet that was making sure Killingham doesn't breathe the same air as Jinbei. Oda is just so good at creating satisfying headshots, just like with Luffy in Summer's last chapter, and the iconic Celestial Dragon moment that I always like to bring up. Then comes, in my opinion, the most interesting part of the chapter with insane implications. Domi Reverse, Doi, and Broggy momentarily regain control of themselves and decide to end each other. They say goodbye to each other and cut each other's heads. So one would think that's a tragic but noble end to them. But as we know, Oda doesn't like killing off characters. Rather than dying, their bodies flip back, like when IMU used Doi Reversy but in reverse, and their normal non-demon selves return. Not only that, they return fully recovered. So from these translations, it seems that when a Doi Reverse creature is killed, that creature just returns to normal and is fully recovered to boot. So many things to unpack and think about here. First, I gotta say, I thought Luffy's drums of liberation were gonna be the key to releasing people from the Doi Reversy. But no, unlike with Loki's fruit, I fully admit that it seems like I was wrong about that. And from an excitement perspective, it's obvious that Oda picked the more interesting cure, since they have to defeat the powered up characters, and they can even go all out because they will come back anyways fully recovered after they are defeated. I heard some of your theories in the comment section of Loki being Doi reversed in the future and our guys having to fight him. And now that we know how to reverse Doi Reversy, it seems like that theory is more likely to come about than before. Obviously, if I was right before, then it would be too easy to return Loki from being Doi reversed if just Luffy's drums of liberation would do it. But now we could totally see an epic fight happening and Loki being okay enough to join the Straw Hats afterwards to boot. Obviously, Loki, after he's been hyped up so much, definitely seems like the perfect opponent for an exciting battle at Elbaf. Not to mention that IMU would further enhance his existing insane powers, if you can imagine that. Like, would the dragon be even bigger, is my question. And when Luffy wins the epic battle against the most giant dragon ever, perhaps with some help from his friends, Loki will be safe at the end of the day and return to normal. So yeah, now after this reveal, I can actually see Reverse Loki happening before this arc is over. However, with this reveal, I also immediately thought of one of my favorite characters in the entire series, Xebec. Rox D. Xebec. He seemingly met his end after Roger and Garp defeated him, and then Figureland and the Holy Knights came to finish the job. But if these translations are accurate, when we saw Xebec alive after Garp and Roger destroyed the reversed version, he should have been back to perfect health. And after what we've seen of Xebec, I can't imagine him in good condition, or even decent condition, actually being finished off by Figureland and the Holy Knights. Yes, if he was crazy damaged like we thought he was after the Garp and Roger fight, then I could see it happening for sure. But no, after this, I strongly doubt Xebec was actually finished off there by Figureland. We saw Figureland Garling about to stab him, then blood, and Xebec thinking thanks to Roger and Garp for stopping his demon self. So we don't see him die, and since Oda is an author who goes out of his way to not kill off so many characters, when we thought they were gone for good, I can't imagine that being the legendary Xebec's end, especially when we got this new reason to believe that he could have well survived. So I'm happy about this since I absolutely love Xebec, I love his character, and this also can potentially reignite theories about Xebec, like the ones that maybe he's inside Blackbeard's body, at the very least one of his personalities, or maybe he'll just make another epic reappearance in some other way later on. We have no idea, so let me know if you agree or if you think he was actually ended there on God Valley. I just can't be convinced after this chapter that that was his end, unless Oda flat out tells us in an interview, like he just recently dropped Gekko Moria's interesting, if a bit predictable reveal that he was Wano hero Kozuki Moria, who lost after fighting for Wano valiantly against Kaido. Then we get an amazing double page that includes one of my favorite characters, another one of my favorite characters I should say, Zoro. We see Zoro, Doi, Broggy, Hyruden, and Stansen standing together ready to fight the other Doi Reverse giants. Stansen says dying once would end their demonic transformation. Broggy says even if they become ruined corpses once flipped, they'd they'd be as good as new. Zoro asks, so we can just go for it? Hirurin confirms it, saying no need for holding back. It would appear that if we inflict enough damage to kill them, they'd be back to normal. Dory says slicing off their heads, digging out their hearts. ... The chapter ends hilariously with all of them grinning malevolently and saying, we can't do that. But jokes aside, it will be awesome all of them going all out. But the problem I raised remains. Things are looking too good for our side. Even before Dory and Bragi were back on our side, it was looking good, and now it just looks like a home run, and we are by far the favorite side to win here. So that is why, unless IMU plans to retreat to fight another day, I feel like it's very likely that Loki will get Doi reversed here, so that we can get that epic fight against a ginormous demonic dragon before Loki flips back after being defeated and joins the Straw Hats. And that reminds me, like always, drop a hashtag Loki for Straw Hat in the video comments if you watched all the way to this point, but also let me know what you think. Are we near the end of this arc, aka will IMU strategically retreat for now, or are we only getting started in Elbaf? Also, how epic is it that Oda finally actually wrote down what the One Piece is on a piece of paper, put it in a treasure chest, and buried it deep in the sea in real life? Does that mean the One Piece itself will be in the sea, I wonder? That could be a clue. But seriously, that is probably one of the coolest things a mangaka thought of doing, and now we know there's no more changing it. Oda 100% knows what the One Piece is going to be at this point, and now it's just a matter of time until we all find out. Also, props to One Piece for selling over 600 million copies. That's been all over the news lately, as much as Superman, or maybe even beyond Superman at this point. And let's be real here, not only has it been around for way less, so it's more impressive in that sense, but it's all one author, while Superman has had countless authors. So it's safe to say that in the comic book world, and obviously I include manga as comic books, Oda is definitely in a league of his own, as is his story One Piece. I've been even seeing posts about Harvard studies comparing One Piece's global cultural impact to Shakespeare and Homer, who wrote the Odyssey and the Iliad. So let's just all appreciate that we've been here for this historic and legendary ride, and that we're able to watch history in the making in real time and enjoy it. Now, if you did enjoy this video, YouTube says you'll also like this one, link on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more One Piece, and I'll see you in the next one after a break next week.